So October, first thing we've got is Meek Mill's Expensive Pain. This was not very good, I didn't think. It wasn't bad, it wasn't awful, it was just like really okay. The production was really flat generally. There was like elements of good production where it'd be like, oh, that beat's alright, but then like there'd be beat switches that just didn't really add anything. A lot of the songs kind of just go nowhere, where it's you get the sense that the song ended because they'd hit 3 minutes and they went, "Oh, that'll do," because it'll just end. There's no sort of song structure where you're like, "Oh, like he spits some verses, he throw a hook in, and then he's just like, well, I'll do." His flow can get quite grating as well. Like at its best, it's really good. At its worst, it's like somewhere between Eminem's Rap God, but like in the SoundCloud era. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm not sure I do. He does this sort of rap god stuff, and then he goes to like the young thugger, um, auto tune sing thing. And it's just, I don't know. It doesn't really do it for me. On My Soul is like a really good example of that, where it feels like it's going somewhere, and then it just ends. Like I felt like I was just waiting on like a beat shift or beat switch. Jeepers! I was just waiting on like a beat switch or like something like another just anything, and it just no. That's it. I like the title track. I liked Tweaking. I liked Cold Hearted 3. I think that's the closer. From memory. But apart from that, to be honest, I don't think I'd revisit this album again, and I kind of don't get the feeling many people are gonna revisit this album again. Kind of bizarre how like missable this album is for me, because like Meek Mill usually is quite good at like putting a project together, and like the name of the album, the artwork, everything kind of pointed to me that he was gonna like really have like a full project. But no, this does sound a bit like, here are the last 50. Here is the best of the 20 songs I've recorded in the last couple of years. Here you go. Yeah, just a bit directionless. And as I say, some of the stuff where he's getting personal and talking about expensive pains, basically, I the title track, um, are good, which almost annoys, because then you're like, why can't the whole album just be this? Yeah, just missable. The next one is Equal Sign by Ed Sheeran. Um, I've been recording for so long, and I don't want to think about Ed Sheeran. So this album starts with Tides, and Tides is really heavy emotionally. Like he's talking about how everything's changed. He's a dad now, and his whole world is turned upside down. And then he talks. I had that dream I have every night where I put a bullet through my head. And I'm sort of thinking, fucking hell, Ed, lighten up a bit. Like, Jesus Christ. I was sort of genuinely, I was like, what's the word? I heard those sort of generic indie rock, like type strum really fast beat, and then him talking about blowing his brains out, or running away into the forest and disappearing forever and all this. And I thought, Jesus, this is not what I was expecting. I was expecting like a generic pop album. And then it just becomes, after the first track, it is just a generic pop album. Like the next song after him talking about um some kind of mental health break from becoming a new dad, is Shivers, which is like the one of the worst pop songs of the year. Absolutely nearly had me there, Eddie, but nope, nope. This is not going to be some some introspective look in. This is going to be yet another installment in a discography of absolute dog shite. He has a song where he talks about it's his like sappy acousticy ballad one, where he talks about how he sang at Wembley and he didn't feel any different, which I thought was kind of weird, because he's like about to go on a world tour and he's playing like a big stadium near me. Like, it's really weird. Like, I hope he opens with that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying, I understand that like just because you're famous doesn't mean that like you enjoy being famous. You know what I mean? And we've heard pop stars talk about the emptiness of it, but there's just something about like writing like, I played Wembley and it was bad. By the way, I'm playing Wembley this year. I'm sort of giggling at this because it's like stupid o'clock in the morning. I've been recording for so many hours, And here I am thinking about Ed Sheeran. But then I just remembered that the Queen and the Joker exists. The Joker and the Queen, excuse me, exists, and the Daniel Johnson ripoff. Like I was physically, I love Daniel Johnson. Like and I'm gonna do a video about him at some point. I love Daniel Johnson. I think Daniel Johnson is just the best, right? And again, I won't talk about that now. But him stealing, and it's definitely stolen. It's so similar. Him stealing "Story of an Artist," um, is just so horrendous and so uncomfortable. And I thought I didn't like Ed Sheeran, and then I heard this, and I was like, oh, it turns out I could like him less than the insane low amount of respect I had from at that point. I hate Ed Sheeran. I don't hate him. Like I don't wish anything bad to happen to him or anything. Or like I'm not awful, but like I just wish, like I don't want Ed Sheeran in my life. I want to shadow ban Ed Sheeran from my life. You know what I mean? Where he can live his peaceful life and that's fine, but I just never ever hear his name ever again. Sandman's music is like the instrumental is what you hear in the background of like a car insurance advert. Save money today. Ugh, this is just a terrible album, really bad album. Yeah, bad album. Next is Lil Ugly Mane's Volcanic Bird Enemy and the Voiced Concerns. So this is this was an outlier. I did not see coming. So if you haven't heard it yet, and if that artwork doesn't and the name of the album doesn't make you immediately want to start listening to it, I don't know how else to convince you. It's this like whimsical it's like a whimsical lo-fi plunderphonics record that's like somewhere between the Avalanches or DJ Shadow, so plunderphonics mixed with like lo-fi indie rock, like Attica Basement. His vocals really sound like any album that has like porcelain and styrofoam and beach harness and VPN on it. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. All I mean is this is absolutely fantastic. This is such a great album. Absolutely one of my favorites of the year as well. And it was just so bizarre. Like I did not predict this album at all. Absolutely recommend this. And definitely don't like make sure if you're listening to it to at least get a few tracks in before you make up your mind, as like because you'll find something you'll latch onto. There might be some stuff you go, that's a bit too weird for me, or that's a bit thing, but like there's a lot of really cool ideas going on here. Next, not an album, just a couple singles. Animal Collective have put out two singles, Prester John, and as of what, like yesterday or something, the day before, they've just put out a new single that's called Walker. Both are great. Both are really great. I'm a big Animal Collective fan. Absolutely love them. Yeah, the Prester John single is like a well, they're both kind of similar vibe, but Prester John's like this kind of spacier, works around this kind of guitar line. For those who've never listened to Animal Collective, they're really good. They've been consistently one of the best sort of indie rock, experimental pop outfits of the last 20 years. And for those who have listened to them, Panda Bear's back on the drums, and the vocals are incredible. And we've got Hurdy Gurdy in two songs. Animal Collective rock. That's the moral of this story. And finally, in October, we have JPEGMAFIA's LP. This is definitely a contender for my album of the year. I just think basically Peggy has got better every album. I thought Veteran was pretty good, but I didn't listen to Veteran and think, oh my god. I just listened to Veteran and was like, this is really like well made, but like it was a little bit derivative of some other stuff out there, and it wasn't like a big step forward. Then All My Heroes Are Cornballs was incredible. It was a great album. It was one of my favorites that year. And the EPs were really good. And then he makes LP, and I'm only sort of talking about the offline version here. I know they're very similar, but I'm counting the offline version as the actual album. I just knew when Hazard Duty Pay came out, oh, this is going to be good, because that is like maybe the best song this year. Oh my god. Oh, this album is so great. It's just like I get there's criticisms of JPEG Mafia that I get, but I just feel like they've all built to like this album, and this album is basically, oh, you liked this about All My Heroes Are Cornballs, you like this about Veteran, you like this about my EPs, you like this about industrial hip hop, you like this about production, blah blah blah. Here is everything absolutely perfectly put together. Well done, me. Nemo is one of the biggest bangers of the year. OG with its like beatboxing, old style hip hop. God, I don't just the whole album's incredible. It's free on Bandcamp. Like, just literally download it. Okay, last run. So it is very early in the morning now. But that's okay. So November. Secretly, this is an arc about me losing my mind talking about music. I'm so tired, man. November. First up, Amine, 2.5. This I've kind of mixed feelings about this album. It's like bubblegummy, stupid, sort of 100 gex, Dylan Brady stuff. Also kind of elements of like JPEG Mafia as well. But like really goofy. I'd never listened to any Amine before this. I think the only song I'd ever heard him do was My High with Slow Tie. Production also kind of reminds me of Igloo Ghost. But yeah, it's like high pitched vocals and it's, bubblegum pop with him rapping about mainly fellatio and how good he is at rapping and how high he is. It's an album that has a song called Charmander and also a song called Van Gogh on it. It's not taking itself too seriously. And it is super fun. On Neo, he says, "She knows I'm the one, like Neo. Her bestie wants a trio," which I think is a pun on Trinity from The Matrix. Like, I'm the one, Neo. She wants a trio. To me, most of the issues with this album are actually that it doesn't go far enough with some of the tracks. Like, they're just a bit underwhelming at times. Favorites are like Charmander. I've been that little goofy thing absolutely stuck in my head. Dada Dum Dada is another one that like I listened to and was like, this is so stupid. But then the next day, I couldn't help myself because I had to play it again because I'm sitting there going, like fun album. I'd check out Dada Dum Dada and Charmander first, and if you like that, then listen to more of the album. If you don't, I probably wouldn't bother. I do think as well these kind of arpeggio synths that we hear on JPEG Mafia stuff a lot, and on the new Earl track, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Plus these kind of pitched up vocals and bubblegum pop stuff. So I'm thinking like Jewel by Anderson .Paak. I genuinely think this is where music's going. I think this is where pop music is going. I think you're going to hear a lot more of this. But for another time. Next up, ABBA, Voyage. I'm not much of an ABBA fan, except when I'm drunk at a wedding. But I'd never stick ABBA Gold on. But this was a weird listen. Like I knew when I heard the singles, it wasn't what I was expecting. Like this album, it's like it's like B cuts from previous albums. It's like a really underwhelming, uninteresting album, but they just decided they had to make it. What 4 or 5 decades later? Like I still have faith in you as an opener is really boring. It's just really uninteresting. When you danced with me, is I didn't know how to feel about it. It's like an Irish trad song, but like not well made. And the lyric is like when you danced with me in Kilkenny, I think it is. But I mean, it's so weird and corny and bizarre. It's not quite the hate crime that Ed Sheeran's Galway Girl was to my people, but it is a bad song. There's a children's choir in Little Things, which was a choice. It was a bad choice. It's a bad choice. Keep an Eye on Dawn was probably the best song. I don't know. This whole album's so weird. Like I don't know why it exists. I don't know what made them go now. We need to come back now. And the optimist in my life, or the optimist in me, would say it's because they just wanted to get together and make some music together and be creative. The cynic in me says that they needed more ammunition for Mamma Mia 3. Um, I can't see any of these songs. No one's. I don't think anyone's listened to this album since it came out. Like it's just such a weird thing. Good for them, I guess. Unless it's for money, then less good for them. This will be a fever dream in like a couple of years. People are like, remember when ABBA dropped Voyage? You're like, what? Next, Adele 30, the opening track. I think the opening lyric is something like "We'll take flowers to the cemetery," and I was like, this is gonna be pretty. This is gonna be like a morbid, feeling sorry for myself Adele album, isn't it? Like that's we're back to Adele. To be honest, right, my biggest criticism of this whole album is how overproduced it is. So I didn't like Easy on Me as a single. Um, I just thought it sounded like a bad credit song for like a Netflix drama rom-com movie. If it wasn't made by Adele, I think people would go like, this isn't very good. But because Adele made it, like it then becomes overplayed, and because it's played so much, it's recognizable. So then you convince yourself it's good. But I just think it sounds like yeah, just like an end credit song for a bad movie. But I assumed that was the album we were going to get. I assumed I was going to get a just her and a piano album. And instead you've got so many tracks that are just like way, way overbaked. Like Cry Your Heart Out is this nice, almost Amy Winehouse-esque song. But then the vocals in the chorus are like vocoded. And I just why? Like I don't why not just like you're a really good singer? Why not just sing? Rehab by Amy Winehouse. Imagine if the chorus for Rehab was like, you know, vocoder as if it was like on Life of Pablo or something. Like it's just such a weird. It's basically like this is what happens when you sit on something for too long. Just sing the song. You're a good singer. Play to your strengths. Oh my god, sounds really similar to Novocaine by Frank Ocean. And I kind of wondered with some of the production choices um on this thing whether or not she was listening to Frank Ocean, and that's why. Like maybe she was trying to implement some of these little subtle production techniques and pitched vocals and things like that he uses. But yeah, I just thought this was another sort of painfully generic album. Like I feel like I've heard songs like "Can I Get It" and "To Be Loved" like 1,000 times by 1,000 different people. Next we have Silk Sonic, An Evening with Silk Sonic. Another possibly controversial opinion, but this was just all right. This was just okay. I heard the singles, like Leave the Door Open and stuff, and I wasn't that into it. Whereas I then listened to the album, it was these like fast paced ones, like 777. The sort of James Brown type ones were my favorites, whereas the kind of more smooth sung ones just didn't necessarily go down as well. I thought for me, my issue with it was like that there wasn't enough of either of them on it. As in, it wasn't until like near the end of the album that I finally heard Bruno Mars like go for it and finally sing like the way we know he can. And Anderson Paak's got a couple of verses here and there. Kids See Ghosts as a collaboration brought out the best of two artists, whereas I felt like this was just like the worst Anderson Paak album. Do you know what I mean? Like it wasn't terrible or anything like that. I don't mean like that, but I just mean like it didn't play to either of their strengths. Like I'm glad they made this. It's a lot of fun. It's really interesting. Making a collaborative album like this, and I wish more artists did this. I wish more artists would take a risk and try something new. But I really, really don't want another Silk Sonic album. I want them to. That's it. We had fun. Now Bruno Mars goes back to making his excellent pop, and Anderson Paak goes back to being like one of the most influential artists in sort of hip hop and R&B at the moment. Finally, for November, we have 2010 by Earl Sweatshirt. This is an absolute incredible tune. I've listened to this over and over again since it came out. It's something about those like huge arpeggiated synths and the really simple drum beat, but like it's where his flow sits with it. Like he just like knows exactly where he needs to be in the song. Lyrically, it's incredible. Yeah, like some of Earl's stuff, I find that I've listened to it a lot when it first came out. Like Doris, for example, I listened to loads when it first came out, but I don't think I've really listened to it since. Whereas like I'm really, really, really excited for this. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be absolutely the best thing he's ever made. And sure, didn't he tweet with JPEGMAFIA that they might work together? So match made in heaven. Finally, December. Listen to one thing that came out this month. Tierra Whack rap question mark or Tierra Whack rap. I love the artwork on this thing. It's great. I'm hoping this EP implies we're gonna get more music because more Tierra Whack is what the world needs. Nice EP. Only 3 songs. I really like Stand Up. Um, anyone like I would recommend this because it's only 3 songs. It's a quick listen and Tierra Whack rocks. Everyone should listen to Tierra Whack, especially Whack World. That's a great album. But yeah, I think that's everything. December's the last month, isn't it? Yes. If you enjoyed me doing content like this, loose, ridiculous, staying awake till stupid o'clock in the morning, losing my mind on camera, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Um, y'all are great. Thanks for a lovely year. I'll do a top 10 albums list at some point, top 10, 20 singles, whatever. Um, yeah, man. Make like a BPM and stuff